Welcome to the Fish Nerds. It's the latest about fish, fishing, and eating fish that's always interesting, usually funny, and mostly true. I'm Dave.
And I'm Clay. And anything is fair game. It's a good bet that I will want to fly to the moon after talking about blue tang.
Oh, tang, I get it.
The juice of astronauts, Dave.
That's very good. Yeah, very nice.
I wrote that. So
we have a guest in the house.
Yeah, the guest. We have Rhett Talbot. Rhett Talbot is an award-winning writer and photojournalist with over 2 decades of experience covering stories from some of the more remote corners of the globe. From icy summits of the Andes to the reefs of Papua New Guinea. I had a hard time reading this earlier. I was saying Papua New Guinea.
Papau. I like that one, yeah.
His assignments have taken him off the beaten track and put his readers face-to-face with stories of adventure, new ideas, and innovative approaches to commonplace issues. Rhett, welcome to the show, and tell us what you're drinking tonight.
Thank you very much. I am drinking a lager, which is unusual for me, from Banded Horn, which is a favorite local brewery here in Maine.
Oh, Dave, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Dogfish Head IPA, 90-minute. Thank you very much.
Never go wrong with that.
And I've got a Ballast Point Pineapple Sculpin tonight, and I'm drinking it out of a Karen Talbot Angler's Pint.
As am I, but I have the Rainbow Trout.
Oh, you have mine. You're dirtying my cup.
No, I actually have a second that she gave to me.
Oh, okay. Misprint.
Yeah. Are they like foul hooked and stuff like that? Is that what makes them?
Yes. We should do that. We should have a whole line of foul hooked.
That would be fantastic. It's a good name.
No, this one has a bubble on the rim.
Oh, ruined everything.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and the reason we're saying that, I met Rhett last year. Karen Talbot from Karen Talbot Art started a series of pint glasses called Angler's Pints, and my family went out to her art gallery, and we drank beer with Rhett and Karen and did a whole show there. And then while we were there, Rhett says, hey, next year when Finding Dory comes out, I want to talk to you about the blue tang. So when it came out, that's why we called you.
Here we are.
Here we are. It's your idea. But before we do that, we always do small talk. Have you been fishing recently?
I have, yes, actually.
What for what?
Well, I spent the recently. That's a good question. I spent the entire month of April fishing in Florida for invasive species for an article I'm working on. So that was fascinating, catching Oscar and cichlids and other assorted invasive species in Florida on the fly.
Wow.
More recently, I've been fishing just our local river here, the St. George's, which is unfortunately way too warm now. So we're looking at getting into bass season.
That's not too bad. Now, when you were in Florida catching invasives, were you eating any of them?
We actually didn't, unfortunately. Usually I do, but we were. I was traveling from spot to spot and staying at hotels that are not recommended by anyone on a nightly basis.
I understand. Rooms by the hour.
Yeah, pretty close.
Are you familiar with Jackson Landers?
I'm not.
So he wrote a book called Eating Aliens, where he traveled around eating invasive species.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I know the book. I just didn't know the name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I was curious.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had a lot of cool stuff down in Florida.
Yeah. No, it's an important thing to do.
It is. Yeah. How about you, Dave? Any fishing?
Yes, and luckily there is a pond right near where I work. What I do is I try to knock off maybe 15 minutes early and swing by, and I have about 8 spots that I drop a Senko worm in, and I'm getting bass about 2 out of 8 right now.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
actually, that's really good. How do you rig your worm?
Interesting that you brought that up. Sort of interesting. I used to be cheap and just jab them through the middle, right?
Right.
But when you catch a fish, it almost instantly throws that Senko, and those things are expensive.
Right. Through the middle is like the wacky worm, right?
Yeah, I'm wacky all the way.
Yeah.
And so then I went and bought another thing, which God, I've got to stop buying things. But I bought the little rubber band thing. And
you actually bought the adapter?
I did.
I thought no one ever did that.
Well, now I do.
It's a little like plastic gasket, right? Just a circle of plastic.
Yeah, it's like a little hernia belt or something that they put on them.
Yeah,
and it totally works. And they don't throw the expensive worm. So I've been very happy about that.
Oh, I'll have to try that now.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, Father's Day, my family says, "Hey, Clay, let's go trout fishing."
Mm-hmm.
And so we went up to the Swift River on the Kankamongus Highway.
Nice.
Yeah, good place. And there's a place called Rocky Gorge. And I know in the bottom of the gorge, it's about a 6 or 10 foot drop to the water, right below the rapids. A bunch of fish hang out there. Mm-hmm. And so fishing off a cliff with my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old, and my wife is a nervous person, so she's not happy with the choice. But it's Father's Day, and I caught a couple little fish. My kids couldn't touch them because we were fishing so high up, and we kept seeing this really big trout scoot out and chase worms, but not eat anything. And so I'm looking in my tackle box, and all I could find is a spoon made for trolling that we call the Wonder Bread, because it's this big old fish-looking metal spoon that looks like Wonder Bread. It's got that pattern of dots on it. And I vertical jigged that off that cliff, and that huge trout, one of the biggest I've ever caught, hook grabbed it right away. And as I was landing, I had to climb down. I'm using 4-pound test. I had to climb down the cliff, and I'm reaching down for the fish, and I'm trying to grab the lure hanging out of its mouth, but I grabbed the line. And what happens when you grab line when you're fishing? Every time. What happens?
We all know it's like the instant. That's it.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah,
We're breaking it. Yep.
Breaks off. Right. So anyway.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I lost my $7 lure and my fish of a lifetime.
That's how it always goes.
It ruined Father's Day, and so the rest of the day I just yelled at my kids and told them they were good for nothing.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
Yeah,
that
that's
does
how
happen.
I celebrated. Yeah.
Very good.
That's it. So that's our small talk.
Yeah, that's pretty good small talk.
Yeah, but let's get on with why we're here. All right, we didn't. Rhett's a big time.
That's
Like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a kind of country kind of feel.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep talking.
All right, so Rhett Talbot is a big time writer, photojournalist, travels the world, knows everything about everything, and so we're going to talk about aquarium fish, which we never do on the show. So here we are.
Well, just aquarium fish in general. Do you have aquarium set up right now in your house, Rhett?
Well, first of all, I'd like to be the guy that you keep introducing because his life sounds amazing. But beyond that, no, I do not currently have an aquarium. My wife and I moved to Maine in 2012, and we are in the process of bringing a 19th century farmhouse back to its glory, hopefully.
I got to say, hang on a second. I've been to your house, and it's in Rockland, Maine. And anyone can visit. It's an art gallery.
Please.
And we were walking your property, and it's beautiful, beautiful property. It's very well organized and maintained. And like every 25 feet is a beer bottle that's really fancy looking and nice. Yeah, yeah. It's like the who's who of worldwide beers. It could be a museum, outside museum for beer. Yeah.
I did do at the behest of my wife. I did do a serious cleanup of beer bottles around the property.
What a shame.
Yeah.
Not nearly quite the museum it used to be.
Oh, well, then I'm not coming back.
But no, I do not have an aquarium presently. My wife and I both, she's a scientific illustrator and focused on fishes. So we both have a pretty fishy life. But currently there are no fish living in the house.
Yeah, very good.
What about jellyfish? You had jellyfish last time I was there.
We did, yeah. That was a project she was working on, and we completed that project, and we no longer have the jellyfish.
What'd you do with them?
Ate them.
Flush them?
Wait, did you say you ate them?
I actually have eaten jellyfish in the past, but we did not eat these ones. These ones actually, jellyfish. Over time, they kind of get smaller and smaller, and then kind of disappear altogether.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they can't just disappear.
Well, there's still bits of them somewhere, I suppose. but yes, I'm not terribly well versed in the biology and life cycle of jellyfish, but I actually know a lot about their anatomy from the illustrations that Karen did.
Wow, that's really cool. I like the idea of you just fade away. You don't die. Yeah. You don't have to bury a jellyfish.
You don't.
Just goes,
I think
poof.
all pets should do that. Like, how cool would it be? All right, I got this cat. It's like 28 years old. Like, instead of getting an old cat, would it be great if about 15 years old you started fading away, and then all of a sudden, poof, gone. Yep, pop. No burial, no flushing things down the toilet. They're just gone.
God, that would be good.
Or like grandma.
That would save a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
All right. Blue Tang.
Blue Tang.
Blue Tang. All right. So a lot of talk on the internet about Blue Tang.
A lot.
And it's the hot topic. First of all, have you seen the movie yet?
I have not seen the movie yet. I actually was speaking at the New England Aquarium the night that it premiered here in Rockland. So I spoke about the Blue Tang on the night the movie premiered, but I've not seen it.
Right. Now, that's shocking that he has a giant premiere in Rockland, Maine.
Yeah. Everything in Rockland, Maine is giant.
That's true. All right.
Very good. Well, then to commemorate this, we have decided to do a little thing that we are calling the Facebook Theater.
Ooh, I love it.
Welcome to Facebook Theater. This is an original script from the Fish Nerds Facebook page. Today, the characters will be James Frank, who will be played by Clay Groves.
Yay.
Dave Perry, who will be played by Dave Kellum. And Rhett Talbot will play himself.
Excellent. Good choice.
Good choice. That's what I thought. All right, shall we go?
Let's go. Okay. So I'll begin. I'm going to do James Frank. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Now, they just need to boost the price tenfold and we'll be okay. This is referring to some pictures of Dory for sale at Petco for $54.99.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then are you going to play yourself as well, Clay?
I am,
Okay.
yeah. So, did you hear Dory and her sick quarantine friends are going to be in the next sequel where they look for anything that's alive after the episodic that wiped out the oceans and all the kids released their sick pets? Along the way, they swim through an ocean full of dead red-eared slider turtles released by kids at a PETA beach party and a neighborhood lake full of invasive predatory aquarium species, including a pacu that works for a vet to help him neuter stray dogs. It's going to be epic.
Agreed. That families with no clue should refrain from keeping these fish. But with that said, I had a hippo tang for 6 years, and it was still thriving when I sold it to another aquarist. There are a lot of captive bred fish in the market. That could be why the prices aren't astronomically high.
P. hepatus, I love it that I use a scientific name, a.k.a. Dory, has yet to be aquacultured, so all come from wild reefs. In the marine aquarium world, wild fishers are generally less expensive, and aquacultured ones are more expensive, the converse of freshwater aquarium fishes.
Well, Lottie, freaking die! Find me a captive-bred hippo tang. Usually, captive bred is pricier because of the overhead of rearing and raising marketable size. At least at first, until the methods are more widespread. I'm just saying that raising the price astronomically would make it harder to purchase one, regardless of where they're from. But this isn't the bigger problem this movie franchise is causing. The real issue is that people are learning from cartoons that sets pets free in the wild. And anyone who doesn't see that that's a problem should touch base with the Florida Department of Fish and Wildlife Conservation.
You won't find a captive-bred P. hepatus. Ellipses, yet. The price of most wild-caught marine aquarium fishes should be higher, as the perpetual race to the bottom has made it far more difficult to support sustainable aquarium fisheries that bring both environmental and socioeconomic benefit to reefside communities. Having said that, Petco has taken more positive steps than much of the industry. The non-native species issue is certainly one of the largest issues of the trade. It's one of the largest issues the trade has failed to address. Although I'm far more concerned about the groupers than the tags. One like.
Because of predation, I'd expect, which is one of the many problems caused by the spread of non-natives. But any species that takes a niche, or niche, for the French out there, from another has the potential to degrade the entire ecosystem, let alone serve as a vector of the foreign illness.
No likes.
But edited.
Yes.
Yup. And to think how aggressively so many states introduce non-native species to create added recreational angling opportunities. Heck, Florida even has tag limits on some.
Thank you, Transcontinental Railroad.
One like.
One like, yeah.
That was me. I liked it. Because that's great that you know that the Transcontinental Railroad was so connected to distributing fish across country.
Well, we should tell you, the Amazing James is part of our show. He's
I know that.
He's part of the F and West team out in California. Yeah. And the reason we did this is I asked everyone who commented here to call in, leave us a voicemail, and they didn't. So the price of you not calling in is we'll do the voice for you.
That'll teach them.
You did a good job, Rhett. You sounded remarkably like Rhett Talbot.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times Rhett can be a little snooty, and I thought you pulled that off really well.
Yeah. Although you were very happy with yourself using scientific language.
You know, I don't usually engage in these Facebook dialogues. And the last 6 months, I've actually am doing a little bit of a scientific experiment where I'm engaging in these sorts of things rather than my usual Facebook messages, which have to do with beer and other things.
Well, beer's interesting, too.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, but we're glad you chimed in here, and it works out really well for the show. So we should kind of back up a little bit and talk about what is the story about Dory? Why are people concerned about the movie and this pet fish? What's the background there?
Well, the narrative in the media is this: 2003, Finding Nemo comes out, And as the narrative goes in the media, everyone decides they need a clownfish. So everybody rushes out, buys a clownfish. Clownfish sales go through the roof. As a result, the narrative continues in the media. Wild populations of clownfish are decimated, and things are horrible. Fast forward to 2016, Finding Dory comes out, and the narrative is extended, and people say, this is going to create this massive demand for blue tang, the fish that Dory is, and that's going to be a real problem for the species. So that's the general narrative. Now, having said that, that narrative is not supported by the extant data, but that is the narrative.
Right, but data doesn't matter to most people.
Right.
No, it doesn't. No. Right. Hashtag data matter.
Love it.
So Clay and I both saw the movie, not together, but we did both see the movie. And I think there's little to worry about because the character is kind of a pain in the ass as far as I'm concerned.
Right. If you want to fish, you get something smart like a ray.
Yeah, exactly.
But really, Dory? I mean, who wants that dope hanging around?
And she's really depressing. Like she's like,
really is sad.
I know, she's like impaired,
mama.
and everybody's feeling sorry for her, and oh my God.
And her only skill in life is talking whale. It's terrible.
It's terrible. So I don't think. And with the clownfish, you know why clownfish is not a big food fish, right?
I bet I'm going to find out.
It's because they taste funny.
You're fired.
Sorry. But anyway, no, we both saw the movie. Now, one of the things Clay and I talked about was, so like I said, I honestly don't think the blue tang is going to be, because they are expensive and they're not just the one-off kind of thing. And like I said, it was kind of a depressing character. But the whole movie just kept screwing up the science left and right.
Oh, on everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, the movie premiered during National Cephalopod Week, right? I don't know if you know that was last week.
I do, actually.
Yeah, and I heard that on Science Friday. And there's one of the characters is an octopus in it.
Yes.
And I'm looking for opportunity. I'm always watch these movies. I'm like, okay, they have an opportunity to get things right, teach some kids some real science. And they talked about the tentacles of an octopus. And I went, all right, we're leaving. I got mad. Because they should hire you or some other fish nerd to just go through the script and just correct the facts. Because it would be so easy to be right.
Now,
right.
So the tentacles, what's wrong with saying tentacles of the octopus?
Octopus don't have tentacles. They have arms.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's that.
There's that. Well, one of the things they played up a lot was the camouflage ability of the octopus.
Right. That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. And it is amazing the chromatophores that they're able to squeeze and do all sorts of crazy things with. Rhett, I don't know, or Clay too, I don't know if you've read this, that the most amazing thing about the cephalopods that can do all that crazy camouflage work is that they're colorblind.
So
I did not know that.
They have another sense organ we don't know about?
I'm pretty sure, if I read the right thing, of course I don't have the citation now, but I'm pretty sure they are colorblind. So then they're like, oh, crap.
I did hear on NPR this week that it's possible that their DNA is from aliens.
Oh, I did hear that.
Yeah.
I think that was thoroughly debunked.
Oh, easy.
Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, our fish nerd, Doc Martin, got really pissed off about it.
Really bent out of shape.
Yeah.
Although that reminds me, did you guys see the story maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago where King Tut had a knife made from extraterrestrial material?
I did see that.
I did not.
That is badass. That's like
made from a meteorite or something.
Yeah, it was a blade of a knife made from a meteorite, and that is pretty funky,
Well, yeah. That's how if I had to kill a bunch of people, that's how I'd want to do it.
Well, it's clearly a gift from the aliens that came down and visited the pyramids. I mean, clearly.
Right, but we're straying away from the point here. We do this a lot, Rhett. Sorry.
Still. No, that's quite all right.
Do you know who we're talking to?
It makes it more interesting.
Rhett's a big deal.
I know.
World.
We're wasting his time. I know.
He even says things like these data. So he gets it
yes,
right.
I know. That's right.
Yep. That's how you can tell a real science guy.
That is very true.
All right. So you were saying with the clownfish, they didn't have a giant run on clownfish afterwards.
Well, so that's been the story, and that's been a pretty consistent narrative. And you talk to people who worked in retail at the time, and they recall that there was just all this demand for clownfishes, and this just people wanted them, and people wanted them. And then there was there were several major media outlets that actually reported that the increase in sales was somewhere in the magnitude of 30 to 40%, and that was actually sourced based on a pretty credible, well-placed source within an aquarium company in the United States. And everyone just kind of believed that, and it kept getting repeated and repeated and repeated. And then we really began to go back in the last couple of months and look at those numbers. And after reviewing a bunch of confidential sales reports from aquaculture companies, after looking at import data that was that was acquired from the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. We just can't find any data that support that anecdote that there was a 30 to 40% bump.
Right, which is weird and unfortunate because, from what I understand, clownfish they're grown in aquaculture, right? So that's not a big deal. If there's a lot of people who want to have them,
right?
That's not a big deal, and that makes it a more interesting talk about Dory,
right?
And
exactly.
Wu-Tang, right? Because you can't grow those guys, or at least no one has.
Right, that's the big difference. I mean, they're clownfishes and tangs are very, they're very different in lots of ways. But
would they be friends in real life?
Would they be friends in real life?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I got to tell you, when I saw Finding Nemo the first time, I wanted a deformed clownfish like Nemo. So I kept looking, never found one that I went by. So.
Well, it's actually interesting you mentioned that. I mean, I don't know if anyone in your audience or either of you have read what's the name of the book? Dragon Behind the Glass?
No.
Oh, it's awesome. You guys need to read it.
Okay.
Dragon Behind the Glass is the story of the arowana. It just came out, and it is a really stunning portrayal of the aquarium trade, largely the freshwater aquarium trade, and the arowana and this fish. And so I encourage everybody to read this book. It's incredible. But one of the things that the author talks about is she talks about the breeding for essentially deformities and how that increases value. And so we think about the marine aquarium trade, and we think about the designer clownfish craze, where people are paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for an individual little clownfish because it's been bred and because certain traits have been bred into it over time. So we have fishes that look nothing like their wild counterparts. And all of a sudden they sell for all this money. So that's actually, so I'm just saying that you were actually ahead of the curve there.
I am so cool.
Something that was deformed.
Yeah, Clay is usually so far ahead of the curve, he's actually back under the curve. But now really, so that seems strange, although that's an old story with dogs, canines, right?
Yeah, sure.
Cockapoos.
Yeah, dachshunds. Things that would instantly die in nature.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're, so a big difference that many people aren't aware, the marine aquarium trade, the saltwater aquarium trade, is predominantly wild fish. So when you walk into your local fish store, Petco, or some other fish store to purchase a saltwater aquarium fish, the vast majority of saltwater aquarium fishes come from the wild. Whereas when we talk about freshwater fish, the majority of them come from aquaculture. So in the marine aquarium world, with clownfishes and other species, sometimes it's pulling a fish from the wild that might be abhorrent, or that might be different than everything else on the reef, and then breeding it with something else that's different from everything else on the reef, and coming up with something new. And we get these new, quote unquote, new, designer strains of fishes that come along, and people pay a lot of money for them, and then they kind of go out of vogue.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, I've always heard, and I never do any research, so it's so exciting to talk to somebody who does research. This is amazing. I've heard people use dynamite to get some of these fish out of the reefs. Is that true?
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big error. We've and this comes up all the time. I can't tell you how many times in aquarium fish stories it comes up that and they catch them with blast fishing. So blast fishing is a significant, serious issue that needs to be addressed across the Indo-Pacific. But it's not used to catch aquarium fish. It's used to catch food fish.
Right. You know what I use? If I'm fishing in a very religious community, I use blasphemy fishing.
Blasphemy.
I'm like, God damn it! Why can't I catch you?
I like that. That's good.
Oh, my grandmother would roll over in her grave and they just fly to the top.
Nice, nicely done.
Thank you. Happy.
Yeah, unfortunately though, I mean, you see blast fishing. I spent a lot of time in Indonesia diving, and you see the results of blast fishing all over the place, and it's a real problem.
Yeah. Now, does a blast fisherman's tackle box just look like M80s? Blasting caps. He's like, oh, what should I use today?
It's a red square with a plunger on top of it.
Yeah, I really wish it was more sophisticated, because unfortunately you go into a village and you meet blast fishermen and you see people who are missing a lot of fingers and or limbs.
This is lefty and stumpy. And...
Exactly.
So the other way, I was listening to another podcast that you turned me on to called Speak Up for the Blue.
Yep.
And you were a guest on that like yesterday or something.
Yep.
And you were talking about using cyanide to catch fish, which surprised me. Like, I've never even heard of such craziness. Can you tell us about that? Because I am usually not shocked by how crazy people are, but that to me is over the top.
So the thing I think in terms of blast fishing, cyanide fishing, and other destructive fishing practices, I think the most important thing to establish when we talk about these things is that it's usually colonists who brought these practices to the developing island nations, centuries ago, and then instructed the natives that this is how you can catch a lot of fish for us. And so that's what happened with blast fishing. It's also what's happened with cyanide fishing. So basically with cyanide fishing, you mix a solution into essentially a squirt bottle, and you dive onto the reef, and you perhaps chase your fish. If it's a blue tang, you might chase that fish into a coral head, a dense finger coral head, where the fish gets back into the corals, and then you go ahead and you squirt your little squirt bottle at it, and it stuns the fish momentarily, which gives you an opportunity to pull it out, stick it in your bag. But the bad part, well, there's a lot of bad to it, but one of the really problematic things that people don't see immediately is the bycatch, the collateral damage that happens. So all the invertebrate species that were in the range of that blast of cyanide generally are also killed. So in places like Indonesia and Philippines, where cyanide use has been a real problem over decades, you have entire reefs that have been wiped out by cyanide fishermen.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Well, that's not funny.
No.
Yeah, there's no funny there at all.
Yeah, nothing.
And it's not only aquarium fish, but it's also live food fish, which is increasingly a big industry.
Wait, people are eating fish that have been squirted with cyanide?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that healthy for them?
There's very few scientific studies on whether or not that actually gets communicated through to the consumer, but it would certainly give me pause.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the take-home message that you want people to come away with when they're thinking about saltwater aquarium fish, thinking about the blue tang? Like, what's our message here? What are we trying to convey to people?
Well, I think we definitely don't want to see an increase in demand for blue tang. So if people have seen the movie and they think, hey, I'd love to have a saltwater tank, there are lots of better options besides a blue tang. There are actually lots of better options beside a saltwater tank if somebody's brand new and just sort of jumping in and isn't sure they're really committed to it. So I think that's really the take-home message. We talked earlier a little bit about maybe there's not a lot of concern about people wanting to actually purchase a blue tang, but the data clearly show that the blue tang is one of the most popular marine aquarium imports to the United States. So if we look back over the most recent data that are available, we see that the blue tang has been as high as the 10th most popular fish, and this is out of 2,300 species of fishes that are imported to the United States. So it's been as high as the 10th most imported fish, importing as many as up to 100,000 a year, more than 100,000 a year to the United States alone.
So catching aquarium fish, you're catching one fish at a time. You're not doing giant trawling or anything like that. Is it possible or likely to wipe a species out that way, or is it just one of those kind of like, be careful, like how many people are actually going to do this? Like, it doesn't really matter.
So I wrote a book a couple years ago on one species of fish called the Bengai cardinalfish. And the Bengai cardinalfish is the only species of fish of which I'm aware that has come anywhere close to being an extinction concern because of the aquarium trade. And that fish is a very unique species of fish. It's a fish with an extremely limited range and relatively low fecundity, so it doesn't reproduce in large numbers like most coral reef fishes do. And so that fish, by aquarium collection alone, was sort of thrust towards that extinction place, and the National Marine Fisheries Service actually just listed it this past January on the endangered species list. But that's a very unusual situation with aquarium fishes. Most reef fishes are highly fecund and have a very large range. So what we're really talking about, when we talk about the blue tang, I know of nobody who is seriously talking about the extinction of the species as a result of the aquarium trade. What we're worried about is local overfishing, localized overfishing, and local extirpations. And that certainly has happened. And over 6 or 7 years now of reporting on aquarium fisheries across the Indo-Pacific, the blue tang is the one species that consistently, I've had fishers tell me, we used to catch them here, now we have to go further to find them. And in some cases, further to find them means going 2 weeks to catch this fish and then return with it. It is such a high value and such a valuable fish that fishers will do pretty extraordinary things to get them and bring them to market.
So these fish live in the wild. They're catching them. They're hard to keep. Are they easy to transport? Do they survive the shipping? Like, how many fish die in the movement from one part of the world to the other?
It completely depends on where what fishery you're looking at. So I've observed fisheries in Indonesia where there is extremely high mortality just between the fishery itself and the point of export from the country. You look at other species, though. You look at fishes coming in from Hawaii, for example, and you have less than 1% mortality on those fishes. So it really depends on where the fish are being harvested and how they're being cared for along the chain of custody. Blue tang, because they're such a valuable fish, they actually tend to be cared for pretty well along the chain of custody. One of the things that was really fun about giving this talk at the New England Aquarium last week was that I was asked to speak on the 5 to 6% of the trade that is actually based on the smaller developing island nations of the Indo-Pacific. So we're talking really cool places like Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, and these places. The marine aquarium trade there is really a positive thing. It is one of the best resource extraction industries in these places. It's something that can really create economic incentive to conserve, and it provides lots of socioeconomic benefit to these villages. So it can be a really good thing. The problem is that more than 80% of the fishes come from Indonesia and Philippines, which are the two countries about which we have the most concerns when it comes to illegal, unregulated, and unreported fisheries.
Wow. And there's no sort of, is there, I know with food fishes, they're working on a chain of, I don't know what you call it, recognition of where the fish came from. Is there a similar thing in the aquarium trade?
There isn't right now, and it's something that's being discussed a lot. So I think looking at food fish as a model for aquarium fish is really useful in terms of regulation and how we manage them down the road. Mm-hmm. I don't see the marine aquarium trade surviving as a trade primarily dependent on wild fishes as long as there is not a third-party certification or verification or assurance scheme like MSC or some of the other things that we see in seafood.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good. I don't know what else to say. We need to transition.
We do. We should say, Rhett knows his stuff. Rhett wrote the book on saltwater aquariums. Rhett, what was your book on saltwater aquariums?
Well, years ago I did the Complete Idiot's Guide to Saltwater Aquariums, which actually makes me cringe because it should have been the Complete Idiot's Guide to Saltwater Aquaria, but the publisher Penguin said that no, it must be aquariums.
Well,
there you go. It is Idiot's Guide.
I know. Yes. The target audience was idiots, so it makes sense.
But you got good reviews on Amazon.
It did, and we tried to work a lot of sort of conservation into that book, and that was a fun project.
And the fact that you get paid to do the stuff you love doing, and we talked about this when I visited you. I got your whole history before, is amazing. I love to talk to people like you who have figured out how to carve a living in this industry, and it's not easy. And so I love seeing successful people like you and Karen doing it.
It's fun. We love it.
Good.
Good. Glad you love it.
The end. All right, Dave, let's move on. Let's do a promo here.
All right, so a promo.
Mm-hmm.
The OPC.
Outdoor Podcast Channel.
We're part of that Outdoor Podcast Channel.
We are. You can get all your outdoor shows in one stream. Just go to outdoorpodcastchannel.com or iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you get your podcast from. Simple.
And it just so happens that this music is our Stump the Fish Nerds music.
I love Stump the Fish Nerds.
Yeah, exactly. And we have one that is for Rhett.
Oh, perfect.
Uh-oh.
I know. It's really amazing.
You know what, Dave? I say they're both for Rhett.
I think you're right. I think you are right. So the first one comes from a very good friend of ours.
Dave and Clay, it's Ryan Dubay. I've got a question for Red. As an avid kayak fisherman, I have been looking for a camera to take pictures of fish with on my kayak that is obviously going to be exposed to a lot of salt water. So if you have any recommendations on a specific camera or any tips, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Were you able to hear that, Rhett?
I was, yes. So I'm going to recommend that you don't go the direction that I go, which means that you carry loads of camera gear and housings and other things when you travel to these developing island nations. Then you have to figure out how to store batteries and how to watch all your gear. Instead, get a GoPro in a nice little housing. That's definitely the best way to go these days. Or if you want to go even simpler, I've personally had remarkably good luck with the Olympus line of waterproof, droppable cameras. They have been wonderful to me, and they've recently added Bluetooth and other, GPS and other nifty things that make looking at your pictures so much more fun.
Good.
Yeah, good advice. Very good.
Glad you're here.
All right, this next one for Stump the Fisher. Yeah, because I wouldn't have said. I mean, GoPro, I guess would be something I would have said, I suppose. Although I don't like GoPro. Have they finally put screens on the back of them?
You can buy one, Dave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a LCD backpack you can put on it.
Oh, because that was the thing that disappointed me the biggest when I got one. It was like, well, crap, you can't see anything.
Right.
But they fixed that.
It's never been broken. It's always been available.
Oh, fine.
Another $60, Dave.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Clay, what would you have said?
I would have recommended one of those Olympus shadow drop proof. That's what I had for a long time. Although it works until it doesn't. And then when it fails all the way.
Oh, it fails catastrophically.
You were snorkeling. I was snorkeling with mine and taking some really great bluegill pictures with it underwater and having a fantastic time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the seal stopped working, and it was over. That was it.
And so a more rudimentary piece of advice is that whenever if you're going to be shooting underwater, before you go anywhere where you are taking shots that you absolutely need to have, make sure to test the seals underwater in a bathtub before you leave home, and make sure to really care for those seals. That's the number one piece of maintenance you can do. So be always greasing those seals and make sure that the seals are in good shape.
How do you grease a seal?
You can buy this material. You just pop out the O-ring and then you just sort of rub your fingers along it, and it's like a Vaseline sort of type of material.
It sounds dirty when you say it, Rhett.
It does.
Very good.
All right, this next one is a little hard to hear, so listen carefully.
Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Paul down in Charleston, Mass, and I live on a little pond, and it's spawning season, and down by my dock, we got a lot of spawning circles going, and I like to hit golf balls into the pond as well as fish, and it seems like a lot of the fish find the golf balls and put them in the middle of their circle. And I don't know if that's for some kind of mate thing, or some of the males and females trying to make their little home look more attractive. But yeah, if you guys could shed some light on that, that'd be pretty cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Okay, so if you weren't able to hear that, so he's at a pond, and there's a lot of sunfish, centarchids, and they're building nests, the great circular nests. And he also likes to knock golf balls into the pond. And he was noticing that his golf balls are showing up in the reds, in the beds where the bluegill are. What do you think's happening there, Rhett?
I haven't the foggiest idea. I can't say that I've ever seen golf balls in reds, but maybe that's just because I've never fished in places that are I fished in places in Florida beside golf courses, but I'm usually not snorkeling there because they're alligators.
Oh yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of that. Have you guys?
I have not, and my theory is that, well, first of all, there are fish that could move a golf ball. So certainly lampreys could pick them up and move them around. A lot of the chubs, horny-head chubs, fall fish, they typically move things about golf ball size around. But obviously in a pond like that, those things don't exist. I think he's knocking so many in the pond over the years that they are actually all over the place, and the bluegill are actually cleaning the reds, and they just happen to uncover them.
Ah,
That's a good answer. Yeah.
that is good.
Yeah, that's really good. I was going to suggest that perhaps, they're hitting the water and there's a little bit of current, and because of the shape of the reds, they're just getting into the reds and kind of piling up. But I like your answer better. A lot better.
Yeah. I would bet. They're just cleaning them off, and they're probably even pushing them around a little bit. I would bet.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't weigh that much.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You've got to wonder too. I mean, like, is there possibly? I mean, would it have some advantage to the eggs?
To have a golf ball on top of them?
Or for the eggs to be on top of a golf ball? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe the dimples mean something.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe like that. And then so one of the advantages would be to have predators avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So maybe if they're freaked out by something that looks like a giant eyeball sitting there.
Well, we know with like saltwater aquaculture, for example, we know that fishes like certain substrate to lay their eggs onto. So terracotta tiles are oftentimes used that are put into the tank, and clownfish will lay their eggs on it and care for them. And so I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe there's something evolutionarily going on there.
Maybe there could be a whole nother project down in Florida now.
Yes.
If you're looking for an excuse to head back down, you can study fish behavior in golf ponds.
I have a fantastic story that's sending me back down there. So.
Oh, really?
Yes. Very, very good story.
Wow,
you can't tell us?
No, he can't.
I can't tell you, but I can tease it. I can say that it has to do with otoliths.
Odorless.
Oh, very, very intriguing. Lucky stones.
Oh,
Yes.
there it is. So, hey, when it does come, if you want to share it with us, we'd be happy to talk about it here with whoever, with you. Or we'll just talk about it without you. So anyway, that was Stump the Fish Nerds. If you want to call in, call 607-378-FISH and leave us a voicemail, and we will play it on the show.
Fish in the news.
I love fish in the news.
I know you do. So we have one fish in the news story.
Yeah, and this comes in from, we have a protester, Dave.
I know. I'm so excited. You know you've made it in the world when you have a protester.
Oh, she just does not like me.
She doesn't.
Let me just, Red, I'll give you a little background. This woman, I'm not going to say her name to protect her. I don't know why. She lives in my community, and she's the videographer for the local cable access TV show, TV station. And she's a vegan, which is fine. I like vegan food, and I like vegans. The reason it's relevant is that I work for the school system, and she videotapes school board meetings. And whenever I have to go to a school board meeting, she accosts me and tells me how that I can't possibly be a good caretaker of our valley's children if I harm fish, because harming fish is exactly the same as harming children. That's her case.
Yes.
So that's her background, and she's been banned from lots of restaurants and stores, and she has a lot of restraining orders out against her in the community. So here's the email she sent me and Dave this week. FYI, thought you might entertain a higher perspective on the lives of those you haul out of their habitats because humans privilege ourselves to take what we damn please and ignore the outcomes. The lives of fish, that's all caps. Humans assimilate as top predator at our own peril that brings full circle every predatory act harming human beings. We teach predator, hence are victims of it. Ask, and I'm not going to read this person's name, but it's a local, we had a kidnapping last year. It's the name of the local kidnapper who tortured a girl for a year about it. He epitomizes the behavior of human beings as top predator. So she's saying, essentially, I'm the same as this rapist.
Yeah, that's...
And then she links to the NHPR story, fish have feelings, two inner lives of our underwater cousins. And, Rhett, you're familiar with this.
Yeah, that's the Jonathan Volcom book that I'm reading right now.
Yeah, how is it?
I'm only a couple chapters in.
Okay.
I'm going to reserve judgment.
Okay. So besides what he said. Now, we've heard this stuff before.
Yes.
And I listened to the whole interview. Did you hear his interview?
I did not yet. It was not available on podcast. This was the Fresh Air interview?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it was not available yesterday. So
okay, well, we'll link it on our show. But it was on Fresh Air with Terry Gross, and basically he was discussing the ethology, and sociobiology, neurobiology, ecology, all these great ecology words of fish. And whenever I hear this, I he's talking about sentience in fish, and do fish feel the same way that people do? It's really hard not to anthropomorphize. It's really hard not to assume things see the world the way we see it or feel the way we feel. So without reading this, Rhett, what do you think about fish and feelings? Do they feel stuff?
Yeah, I mean they feel stuff. It depends how we want to define feeling.
How do you measure that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is such a challenging. So rather than necessarily giving you my take on sort of fish sentience, I think the more interesting thing maybe to bring up is just that we're living in an age where we're seeing more and more of this type of material, and more sentience is ascribed to a larger and larger sort of group of animals, and it's significantly changing the way society perceives things like hunting, zoos, keeping fish, fishing, and it'll be very interesting to see the way this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an overall good thing. I'll tell you why. I think the fact that this is a big time, this got like 30-minute story on Fresh Air. I think the fact that this is one of our big concerns, it shows that actually the violence worldwide is down. So we can focus on fish and how they feel as opposed to all, wars and other violence. We have that kind of freedom to care, or we're rich enough to care about that kind of feelings.
Right. So it's sort of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're to a stage where we can start futzing with this.
Right. Like, all right, everything is good. Life is great. I need a cause. Oh, that fish looks sad.
Well, I'm the guy who authored a piece in Fly Fisherman magazine more than a decade ago that I continue to get email about, regular snail mail and email, and the piece was called "Catch and Kill: A Conservation Ethic." And I think it is worth fishermen sort of thinking about fish in the fishes they catch in as broad a way as possible, because I think there's there are a lot of implications, conservation, obviously the species themselves, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, and one of the things I actually agree with our protester on is that the way you treat these fish that you catch actually, I believe, does sort of translate to how you view the world. So, for whatever reason, if you are violent to the fish that you catch, and we've been on boats like that have caught dogfish. Clay, you have stories of people catching dogfish and just kind of brutalizing the dogfish.
Like putting firecrackers in their mouth and throwing them back in the ocean, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah. It is terrible. And
well, in the science, will back up, cruelty to animals and cruelty to people is not a big leap from one to the other. Now, it's a big leap from catching a fish and hurting kids. That's a big leap.
Oh, well, that's a ridiculous leap.
That's the assertion that our friend is making.
Right, and that's hyperbole. But but I do think that the attitude towards the way you handle the fish actually is important. And
absolutely. And I'll tell you too, the I don't think she's wrong to send me these links and to tell me how she feels. If you truly believe that that catching a fish and catching a human on a hook would be exactly the same thing, then it's your duty to tell me. Because if that's, you have to. But I do rethink how I handle animals. Like, I always think, okay, well, I'm not going to stop fishing. That's not an option.
Right.
But I can be gentler, nicer, and kinder, if that's possible.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
So have you guys tackled the topic of whether or not you take a picture of a fish out of the water or keep it in the water?
Interesting. So I created...
Hashtag keep them wet.
I created a frame for taking photos of fish. So I took 2 pieces of plexiglass and put a hose in between the two, and it filled with water, and I could put a fish in there and take pictures. And I've also done underwater catch and releasing. So I've been snorkeling with a ice fishing rod and I'll catch and snorkel with a fish and take a picture and let him go without taking him out of the water at all.
Yeah.
So totally fun.
And my sister, who is very, pro animal, she's a dog rescuer and all this kind of stuff. She likes fishing, but she takes the hooks off of all the lures. So she'll throw a bass lure out there, and the fish are bashing it, and that's enough for her.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, actually, that does
Sounds a really good time.
So we're just messing with fish. But yeah, on that issue so my personal take is, whether take a fish out to take a picture is, I think it's in our human essence to futz with stuff, right? I mean, our goal seems to be to put our hands on things, and for me, fishing for me is sort of a cheap pseudo biologist fantasy that I can play out. Like when I was growing up, I always liked watching Wild Kingdom and all this, and their biologists get to handle all these great fish, and they get to electrocute them, and they do all sorts of cool stuff. But with fishing, I can do that and release them, and I can still study them and appreciate them and all that. So my feeling is, yes, absolutely, you got to engage. If we get to the stage where you can't even, hardly look at them, like you don't want to make eye contact because it might freak them out, I think we went too far.
I don't make eye contact with fish. I'm just saying.
Right. So, Rhett,
Yeah.
where do you stand on the fish picks?
Yeah, so I've actually within the impetus behind that catch and kill a conservation ethic piece that I did for fly fishermen was really about the notion of I was living in Wyoming at the time. It was winter. I was fishing a creek. I caught a really nice brownless one day, killed it to take home to eat, and was accosted once I got back up to the truck on the edge of the highway by a couple of fishermen with a TU sticker on their bumper. And they, said, I can't believe you just killed that fish. They had been fishing near us all day, and they'd been catching and releasing. And my argument was, I felt like I was the better conservationist to have caught a really nice fish, killed it, and decided it was time to go home, rather than fishing for catch and releasing a number of fish on relatively light tackle all day long that you were releasing, but the hook mortality, especially in the winter, was probably through the roof after they left. And so, for me, I felt comfortable at that point with saying, I'm going to fish and I catch this nice fish I'm going to eat for dinner and I'm going to go home. So today, I've really stopped taking pictures of fish out of the water when I'm fishing, unless it's for, something Karen's doing for her artwork. If we're specifically looking for a particular fish that she's working on for a project, then we'll go ahead and take a bunch of pictures out of the water.
Yeah. Well, very good.
I personally just don't take pictures,
So do you ever leave them in the water and like take pictures underwater of them? Is that how do you do it?
I actually, I have that little Olympus in my pocket usually, and so I stick it underwater and sometimes snap a picture. But more often than not, I've just stopped taking pictures of fishes that I catch.
Right, but you've seen them all.
I haven't seen them all, but it's like that's I do so much of what I do with fishes is professional that sometimes when I'm on the river by myself, or with my wife, fly fishing, I just kind of don't want to think about taking pictures or sharing with anyone else later. I just want to kind of be in the moment. And for me, that works. And I'm not judging anyone else's, approach to it. But for me, that's just, I kind of want to be unencumbered by all of that.
It sure is easier.
It is easier. And what I've taken to is to record my catches is giyataku. So when I catch a fish, I dump it in a bucket of ink, and then I put a piece of paper on it and rub it really, and get those fish rubbings.
And then let it go.
Yeah, some people have a problem with that, but
God, giyataku is amazing. Yeah. What an outcome. Holy mackerel.
Holy mackerel.
Hey, wait a second. I have an answer for you guys.
Oh.
So my friend, Richard Ross, who is a biologist at the California Academy of Sciences, who is one of the nation's leading cephalopod experts, responded to me. I wrote to him at the beginning of the show when we were discussing octopus and being colorblind, and he has confirmed that indeed octopus are colorblind.
Hey!
We got to get him on this show.
Real information.
You would love to have him on the show.
Yeah.
He's way more entertaining than I am. You're going to have to ask Richard Ross to come on the show.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's awesome that you were able to live, communicate to him to get there. That's great. Whew.
Super good.
All right, so we are going to finish this section up, this podcast, and we always like to do a bit of a quiz. So this quiz, Rhett, we've decided to put together a quiz on animal groups. So, like a pod of whales kind of thing.
Yep.
And we were inspired because we heard about stingrays. Do you know what a group of stingrays is called?
I do not.
Oh, well, before you tell them the answer, this I learned this last week. And then when we saw Finding Dory, at the very beginning, spoiler alert, there's a migration of stingrays happening. And I thought, if the movie's true and they hired a good consultant, they're going to have my new word in it. And they called it a school of stingrays, which I was like, come on. And even my 9-year-old was like, Dad, they didn't get it. So it's called a fever.
Ah, yes, I have heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fever of rays.
I love it.
So we are going to say some names, and some of them are true. Some collections are true, and some are false. And you have to say whether they are true or
Is that what we're doing?
false. Yes, that's what we're doing.
Oh, I don't have the same thing in front of me that you have.
It's a finely oiled machine.
Yeah.
It is a fine oiled machine. So I will go first. The first one is a shoal of bass.
I gotcha.
A shoal of bass. So what do you call a group of bass?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And is it true that you call them a shoal of bass, or is that a false thing?
Oh, no, a shoal is definitely appropriate.
Yeah, very good. Ding, ding, ding. Very good.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Okay.
That's actually interesting because I was gonna call you on the shoal versus school of rays, but we won't go there.
Oh. I got it from Finding Dory.
Yeah, so it's not our fault.
I was quoting the movie. And plus, I didn't know. Is it also a shoal?
Well, it depends. That's a long etymological argument we probably don't want to get into tonight.
Well, okay. Next time. I'm afraid of this quiz, Dan.
I know. I like how he's like, no, don't go there. You don't want to go there.
I'm scared. I know. How about a trash of seabirds?
A trash of seabirds?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I've ever heard that. But it sounds so... Gosh, it sounds so unusual. Like, I can't believe you made that up. So I'm going to say yes, it's true.
No, I have it's a wreck. It's called a wreck. A group of seabirds is called a wreck.
Wreck.
Mm-hmm. WRECK.
Okay.
Yeah, very
I guess
good.
That's right.
Yeah,
The trash of
so
seabirds.
We're learning with you tonight.
yeah, so that's good. So you're 1 for 1 now. So
Yeah.
or one whatever, 1 for 2. An army of herring.
An army of herring.
Yes.
As in the fishes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
An army of herring. Well, I've never heard herring called an army. So I'm going to say, but last time I went with this, I was wrong.
Talk it through.
Logic won't help you.
All right. I'm going to say no. That's not correct.
Oh, and you'd be wrong because it is correct. It is.
Yeah.
They have somewhere been referred to as an army of herring. We're getting these from a highly reputable website.
This group.
So an army of herring. Very good.
Yeah. How about you'll know this one, a smack of jellyfish?
I have heard of a smack of jellyfish, but I don't know if that's an official term. So I'm going to say yes.
So yes.
Yes,
Good.
it is
See?
an official.
Now you're on the winning side.
Right.
A battery of barracuda.
No, that's too much alliteration.
Well, according to the site, it is true. They actually are called a battery of barracuda. Yeah, go figure.
Huh.
Yeah. Huh.
All right. I'm going to have to blog about this. This is fascinating.
Isn't this really fun?
Clay, you're up next.
Yes. Boy, how about a couch of clams? So I like the alliteration.
Oh my gosh, a couch of clams.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No is
That's
right.
not
Yeah, it is not a thing.
Yeah,
No, okay.
not a thing. A purse of pelicans.
Well, give him the answer.
Oh, sorry. It's a bed of clams. Clam
Yeah.
beds,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. A purse of pelicans.
A purse of pelicans.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I'm going to say no. Karen did a big study on pelicans this year, and I was with her for the whole thing. I never heard that.
Wow, that's kind of a phone a friend kind of vibe you got going.
Yeah.
Since you pulled her. You are correct. They are called a pod of pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, very good.
How about a troubling of goldfish?
I love that.
Yeah.
If it's not true, it should be. Yes, I'm going to say that. Yes, that definitely is true. That must be true.
It is totally true. Yep.
Isn't that great? We're going to end on that one because I think that.
And can I add a little nice piece of trivia?
Oh, sure.
In Maine, it would be illegal for me to put goldfish in the pond we just built.
Even a closed system.
Yes. Yes.
I've read stories where they've raided Chinese restaurants.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
And they've raided this woman's home in Kennebunkport last year or 2 years ago. Yes. Yes.
Man. So
Yeah.
is there a shady underworld, underbelly of goldfish dealers in the state?
There isn't, but Maine on one level takes invasive species very seriously. On another level, like so many states, they have they have allowed and even at times encouraged invasive bait fish and so forth. So it's a very troubling situation. But Maine has a very strict list of allowed species.
Yeah. Well, they're not called a troubling of goldfish for nothing.
That's right. Exactly.
Very, very good. All right.
All right. Any parting words, Rhett?
I think what you guys do is great. I think that, and in all seriousness, I think it is great. I think that we need to have more conversations about our fish brethren. I'm not sure we need to be having them at the level that that book is currently having the conversation, but maybe. So the dialogue, though, is important, and the humor is much appreciated. So kudos to you guys.
Do you know the author of that book personally?
I don't know.
You don't. We're going to reach out to him and see if we can get him on the show.
Yeah, he's Canadian, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh, A.
Yeah.
A?
Yeah. All right.
I was unable to get our typical ending music, so we're gonna have to live with this.
Oh, our sexy music.
Oh
yeah.
That is it.
That's it.
You've listened to a bunch of fish nerds when you should have been fishing.
We'd like to thank our families for supporting us while we podcast, go on fishing quests, and do all sorts of silly things that middle-aged guys do. Oh, yeah. And if you would like to support the Fish Nerd, you can help us crowdfund this show at patreon.com/fishnerds and give us $1.
A very special thanks to Rhett Talbot. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
Thank you, guys.
You can find Rhett at www.rhetttalbot.com, and we'll link him, of course, on our Fish Nerds website. And until next time, follow the code of the Fish Nerds, spawn early and often.
Oh, yeah. Avoid free lunches with strings attached.
And swim against the current every chance you get. Thanks, Rhett.
Thanks, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Fade out.